Hello comic fans, here's Earl Grey. Today I want to talk about three German comic magazines from some decades ago. I talk about them in a series of videos on my other channel, Örls Waschmaschine. All videos there are in German, so you've been warned. But there I flip through all these and much more from Belgium and France and all over Europe. And showcase them in much more detail. But I thought I give you an overview about some comics that were important to me when I was a child, or young Earl. Yeah, maybe the most important one for me actually was this one here, and this is called Örls. Named after this kangaroo Örls, and it was a German franchise, if you will, from a French magazine called Gadget. And the neat thing and the back then outstanding feature was that you always got a special gift called gimmick with it, like this little plane here that you can shoot into the sky. Nowadays, it's not so unusual that the comics will be sold with all kinds of plastic rubbish. But way back then, these things here really had an impact and would be built and played with and etc. And this comic here, this weekly magazine, is pretty legendary up to this day. You can ask people what they think of this gimmick or other gimmicks, like for instance this bit silly primitive gramophone. Well, it was delivered with this flexi disc, and then you could turn it with your finger and do even a bit of scratching with it, and then if you listen real closely, you could hear some kind of, let's call it music, out of that cardboard contraption there. So, and these comic magazines, many comic magazines in Europe have this these parts, educational stuff, something to glue together, make your own mobile like this here, and therefore you had to cut the back cover of this old magazine here. Did I say that it was from... when was it? Must be 77, roundabout. Here I noted all the timelines for the different comic magazines that I talk on my German channel. And Ips had a run from 1975 up to 2000, and there were later trials to resurrect Ips, but finally it was no success anymore. But it was a big success from 1975 to 2000, and my copy here is from around 1977. I think it was 1977. And we have some... there was always a nice mixture of comics for children, adventure comics that you could read as if you would be a bit older. Some fun stuff from the French Gadget that was just translated. And adventure comics here in the Hal Forster tradition, like Ragnar the Viking. And later on, Ips contained comics like Asterix or Lucky Luke and Percy Pickwick, which is Clifton, and other really good, interesting comics. Maybe the most influential, the comic with the most influence for the kids in Germany was this one called Zack. And even though it ran almost, or just for 6 years in its heydays, from 1972 to 78, or a bit more than just 6 years, like Ips, it was resurrected, but with more success. So it was restarted 2000 and is with us still, but nowadays as a monthly magazine and by a different publisher. Way back then it was a weekly magazine, or like 1976, from which is this copy here, it was a biweekly magazine. And you can already see here, what a roster. Dan Cooper, Bruno Brazil, Gentleman GmbH from Italy. They took some stories from Italy, Bob Moraine, and Lucky Luke. And here we have a part of Chihuahua Pearl from the Lieutenant Blueberry series, which was serialized in that time. And here you can see some pictures of the target audience back then. And they tried to lure more readers in, try to socialize with their readers in a way. So here they promote a talking radio, or however, zack funk. And that's a story by Dan Cooper, or of Dan Cooper, from Monsieur Weinberg, a funny page, funny comic, short funny comic, some essays about stuff that was of interest for a bit, older boys, heavy trucks with a color TV, Luxustrecker mit Farbfernseher, and little car-like contraptions with some sail that you can race on the beach, and some other stuff. Reader's column, letters column, and Bruno Brazil, and so on. And Lucky Luke here in the end, the Gentleman, Li Aristocrati, all stuff that you can now get in different nice collected editions in hardcover. So that's the problem, I guess, and eventually one of the reasons why we don't have so much comic magazines anymore, because we readers are just spoiled. We want to read a story from start to finish and have it in a nice chunk and hardcover, like all these here surrounding me. And the other reason for the downfall of the original Zack was that they just bought too many more or less expensive artists and writers like Herman and Jean-Paul Charlier and so on, and finally they couldn't pay their bills, if I summarize it more or less correctly. And speaking of paying the bill, this is the only reprint. These are original magazines that I bought from eBay right now for your and mine education, because I don't have my original Ips anymore, or Zack, they're just gone. And Fix and Foxy, this one here is from, from when was this comic? Must be from the middle, 1955, I guess it was. And this magazine here, or comic book, if you will, this is actually rather comic book size. It costs you 750 euros right now. I just saw someone selling this for 750 euros on eBay. If you really found a buyer, I don't know, but not me. This was way too expensive. And a good thing that you can buy now a bundle of reprints for Fix and Foxy magazines. As a bundle, and they're nicely made on thick paper and with the original educational stuff. This is a quiz, a riddle, but what a complicated and word-heavy riddle is. I really can tell you that today's young kids, they don't read so much stuff anymore. But it has a nice picture here and about Fix and Foxy going to the moon. And this is such a blatant rip-off. I don't want to call it spoof, even though the rocket here looks a bit different than there, because I hope you have recognized where this design of the rocket stems from. Obviously, it's Tintin, and nowhere it's mentioned we took that from Tintin, and I don't think that it's even meant to be some kind of satire or something. They just used the picture here, and somehow it seems they got away with it, even though Fix and Foxy, it was really big success in Germany with huge printing number, and I guess it was biweekly, at least in the beginning, and and this is really funny, and probably the reason why, especially this copy here goes in its original version for insane prices. And maybe you have already guessed it, that Fix and Foxy is not only in my eyes, in my opinion, a pretty blatant version, rip-off of a Duckburg. Okay, we have two foxes and not two or three ducks, Tick, Trick, and Huey, Louie, and Dewey. And in German they are called Tick, Trick, and Track. But this Lupo character here, Lupo, obviously a wolf, but he looks not only a bit like Goofy, but he acts like Goofy. But here a more wild and not so nice character. Actually, there they are on the moon. So it's more a fairy tale and a summarized tale of the Tintin and adventure. It's a story of its own and much more goofy and childish in a charming way. And there are jewels and diamonds and whatnot on the moon, and Lupo or the German Goofy steals them and leaves Fix and Foxy on that on the moon and to die. But in the end, nevertheless, it's all fine. Here, everything's nice and cozy again. Nothing serious happens there. I'm not that old, so I can't remember the Fix and Foxy of 1955. But I guess in the 70s, late 70s, or in the 70s, I got my fix of what was Fix and Foxy way back then. It was a bit more modern than this one here. So, yeah, if you like this kind of content, me flipping through old magazines, and if you understand a bit of German, go to Örls Waschmaschine, and there are much more videos waiting for you, updated each Monday. And I make my way through Europe, really. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.